Happy Friday, everybody. Josh here with On the Wrong Lead. I was going to say another episode of You Gotta Be Shot Tinning Me, but, technically, it's not You Gotta Be Shot Tinning Me. It's the same group. Got Matt Carlson here with me as usual, but we're going to be doing something different during the off season here. We're going to call this the Get Out, where we handicap the late pick 3 at Del Mar on Sunday, because if there's one thing that I usually need every single weekend, it's a get out bet. So and honestly, like, man, I think we've talked about this before. I mean, I loved the golden hour. I loved the golden hour pick 4 because it was $1 base, right? And it was basically the last like major track running on Sunday. And then, hey, when you missed the golden hour pick 4, you had the golden hour double.
Yep.
But we still got that $5 double. And obviously we'll be talking about the last 2 races at Del Mar. So, maybe there'll be a double play there for you. But they have a $3 late pick 3. I love these $3 pick 3s. I actually, not to get on the soapbox too much here, but I really do think that raising the limits on certain bets, I think would actually be beneficial. I think raising a pick 4 to $1, I think you can keep the pick 5 at 50 cents. I think that's fine. And honestly, like, I like the dollar pick 6 seems to be working out pretty well. I think, places that like Naira, like it's much more approachable for gamblers, while still, kind of keeping the payouts there. So, but I think, like, I don't know, exactas at this point I think are too far gone to save. I think the computers just got them. Like there's nothing you can do. Because I think even if you raise the minimum for an exacta to $2, I don't think that's going to do anything. Maybe you raise it to $5. I don't think it's going to do anything. Same thing with the win pool, right? The win pool is just too big. Like, raising the minimum to $5, not going to do anything. So whatever, you can keep those. I really do think the pick 3, the pick 4, and a trifecta in particular, if those minimums got raised, I think that we would have I think we'd have a better shot as bettors. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the computers would still just absolutely dominate it and it wouldn't matter, but I don't know. I think that I think it would at least make it a little bit more interesting. But
Yeah, I mean, I think it takes casual bettors out of the pool, right? But it forces you to kind of focus those plays a little bit better. And I do think, just from a computer perspective, right? If you're looking to kind of sweep up and say, hey, what are the less likely plays, or if you're looking to slam something on that and through what people are playing, right? Like, it disrupts that, right? If you have a 20-cent base, you can play a bunch of picks that are just like, hey, I know I'm going to scoop this based on these combinations. And so, like, I can play a jackpot that way and things like that, right? Like, those are permutations. You can figure those out. I think it takes that stuff out because you'll get more carries. You'll get, better payoffs in the end. It forces you to handicap these things. And yeah, you're going to be wrong. I mean, you mentioned the golden hour. I think I played that bet for 2 years and never hit one of them. So, some CAW is probably in like a very medium-sized boat based on the way I bet that thing. And Del Mar might go very similar for me because I don't pay attention to Cali racing all that much. So this might be a horrible idea, but hey, look, it's like you said, this is your last chance in the weekend, at least in, aside from like Los Al, which the real degenerates in us do play. But yeah, that's.
we could have done the early pick 4 at Los Al.
No, you want fruit with no juice left to squeeze. That is Los Alamitos right now. Those things have paid either they rarely pay $100 anymore, and that's with $1 base. Like, yeah, those things are solved.
Yeah, I will say the nice thing about Del Mar, at least early, especially early Del Mar, man, the fields are just so good.
Massive, yeah.
I mean, I think they're even better than like what we get at Saratoga. And yeah, it's nice to not really. I mean, yes, you maybe get one, maybe 2 days during the meet where maybe they don't run on the turf, but I mean, for the most part, man, you can always guarantee that we're going to be running the turf. You're not going to get a ton of scratches. Like I don't know. I really do like. It's tough because I feel like if California could just get the horses, it'd just be a little easier to support. But um, I mean, they do things wrong too. Like we don't have to like sugarcoat it, right? The early pick five is a great bet. The late pick five is a very bad bet. I think the late pick five is like a 20% takeout,
It's like
23%
20,
takeout.
24. Yeah, it's something insane. But
Yeah, and so it's just like you know, it that's just not like there's no reason for that, right? It's just not good. And this bet that we're talking about, the $3 late pick three, has got a 15% takeout, which for a pick three is just absolutely phenomenal. And the late double has got a 15% takeout, the $5 base. So you know, um, I love playing these bets. It's funny because like I don't follow California racing super closely, but I follow it enough that I basically fire every single one of these bets, these late pick threes or late doubles, almost every single day of the meet. So, it's just like for me, bankroll size, like it's the right amount. Where I'm tossing a 24, 27, $36 ticket, and I'll win a couple hundred off of it if I hit, and you can you get a little bit of action there, and like a little bit better strike rate than playing the pick five, and sometimes I mean you get just as good of a payout. So yeah, this is gonna be fun to talk about. I'm excited for Del Mar to start. I played a little bit today. I had a couple of um, nice wins at Saratoga of all places, and then um, I tried to roll it into Del Mar, and I just didn't get there. But I got around. Oh, I already forgot the name of the horse. Is it Beyond Brilliant? Was that the horse at Saratoga? It was a real short price, or is that? No, that's at Del Mar, I think tomorrow. Um, but I got around that short price Chad. I think that was coming off a long layoff
yeah,
with
yeah, yeah.
Joel Rosario on the front end. I always get the horse name mixed up because there's another horse, Big Everest. He went wire to wire there, and had a nice win bet on him. Had a nice win bet on the Dillon horse earlier in the day. Um, and so I'm very positive on win bets because those are the only two win bets I made, and I hit them both, but I whiffed everything else. But live and learn. We move on, and before we get started, we have the time form PPs, which are my PPs of choice right now, provided to us by DRF. And DRF has got this new AI tool, Ask DRF. Chat.drf.com. I've already started asking important questions, such as if it knew that Andrew Champagne had Lord Miles in the wood at 59-1. It did not, and it complimented Andrew, so we know it's still a beta because
You're working it out.
yeah, so they're working the kinks out. I've messed around with it a little bit. I'll be honest with you, Matt. Working in IT, I'm an AI skeptic, right? I understand the I understand like there's probably certain uses for it. I haven't in my day to day like life have not really found a good reason for it, a good use for it. I think AI art sometimes, like if you're trying to make a quick logo or something, like can do some decent stuff, but like um but I've been messing around with it a little bit. I've been asking questions, asking it for like pace scenarios and stuff like that. And it seems like it's pulling a little bit of DRF data and giving you some information. So I think there's something there, but I'm still playing around with it. And I know you love messing around with all this stuff and breaking it. So I know you're gonna get in
Well,
there and
that's what I was
probably
gonna say, right? I mean, like, look, the price is right, and like you said, the data's there. So if you're looking to see an opinion, see what it can do, see what it has. Hey, log on, give it a shot. Right. The worst thing is it spits out information. You say, hey, I don't like it. And, they're going to refine it over time too. Like you said, right? This thing's
Yeah.
just coming out. So, uh, you know, give it a shot. It's out there, right? Like AI is a tool. Just
Yep.
like everything else we're looking at is a tool. So
Yep.
the more
I do
tools, the
think,
better, right? The more access, the better for us. So
yeah, I do kind of see that it could be a good tool for, someone just starting out, possibly, being able to ask questions and it tell you like, what is a trifecta? Who won this? Like that kind of stuff. But for handicapping, like, we'll see. I'm gonna put it through its paces, but it's free for everyone out there to use. So go ahead, check it out. And we're gonna start here at race 9 at Del Mar. Post time 9 p.m. Eastern. So we'll be it's 8 p.m. for me. I'll probably be negative. I'll probably be like 4 deposits in by then, and we'll be trying
that's
to get out by then.
that is
So
the exact point of this show, right? So
yeah. So we'll be trying to hit the get out here. Your morning line favorite in here is going to be the 9 Medoro at 3-1. You get 7-2 on Queen Maxima. And then you start to kind of, it seems to kind of go a little bit longer price. You get Sunset Glory at 6-1, Lunar Impact at 8-1, Nadette at 8-1. You get double digits on the rest. I landed on a couple of middle prices here. I kind of looked at this field. I'm trying to kind of figure out where, uh, where the pace is going to come from in here. And it looks like Queen Maxima, who's one of the short prices. They track him to be on the lead, her to be on the lead, and I don't understand the short price on this horse because this is the horse that hasn't gone this distance, since 2024, and that was not a good race. That was one of this horse's worst races. Now, granted, 6.5 down the hill. Oftentimes, there's that parallel. Hey, if you get that distance, you get the mile. But this is the horse that won the unbridled, was it the unbridled Sydney, I believe, at Churchill Downs, going 5.5. Like now they're coming back here. They're going a mile. I just don't see it there for this horse. The number 9 Medoro. This is a horse coming off a very, very long layoff, and even with that, this horse will have to run her best race, basically, I think, to win this race. And I think that's asking a lot for a horse coming off a 206-day layoff at a short price, right? So, and there's been a couple of horses at like these types of horses. I always like to fade, right? These horses coming off these long layoffs, coming in at short prices, and yeah. So I actually went with 2 horses. The number 10 Sunset Glory. I like this horse coming off a win, right? Pretty recent, right? 44 days ago at Santa Anita, was the favorite in that turf allowance race, and was able to come from off the pace, close in nicely, and win. Kazushi Kimura stays aboard here, and I like this horse coming in from a win, kind of second time out this year. I would expect to see maybe a little bit of improvement there. The horse has got a little bit more condition, has got that one race under its belt. And this horse takes a step forward and runs back to, the BC last year or the Rodeo Drive. I think this is a horse that fits in right there. And you're getting like double the price on this horse. You're getting 6-1 on the morning line. So I like Sunset Glory. And then good old Turf Mike Smith. Turf God Mike Smith on the 1. Nadette here for Neil Drysdale. This is a horse that, it hasn't won for a bit. You got to go back to Colonial last year. where this horse won on won on a soft course. But this is a real consistent horse, right? This is a horse that shows up, runs that 110, 112, 114 every single time. And I got to be honest with you, I think that figure wins or is really damn close to winning this race. So, the debt at 8-1, I thought, made a ton of sense here. I like Mike Smith on the turf when he doesn't have to think, right? So it's got to be one of two things. He's either got to be on the lead, C Cabo Spirit, or it's got to be a one-run closer where he just sits in the back and just stays out of trouble and gets that horse to go, right? I said this yesterday on a stream I did. I mean, at this point in Mike Smith's career, he does not gotta get out of bed for any non-live mount, right? And we see it all the time. Mike Smith's got two mounts, and they're both live. It's it's just he just he's basically when he's on something, usually it means it's live. 8-1, I think is a good price here on a really really consistent horse, um, and a horse I think that it has done some nice running here at Del Mar and going this mile distance. So I like Nadet here. I like Sunset Glory, and then for a bit of a long shot, my lone B is the four omnipotent here. Japanese bred horse was running in Brazil and was running in Brazil with our boy Magic Man Joe Moreira rode him twice. And I think this is a horse that has just steadily improved since coming to the U.S. And first time out or first time here or second time here at Del Mar, Frezu and D'Amato. I mean, this is a trainer jockey combo that hits at 20%. This is D'Amato's guy. D'Amato loves putting him up on his best horses, and I kind of look at this run style, and I think he plots out pretty well here for this race. I think he's going to be sitting kind of mid pack, and if Nadet doesn't really get going all that well, I do think there's a place where maybe the four can kind of get the jump a little bit, and has done something that I love to see. Blue fractions came from off the pace and one. Love seeing that on time form. So I like this spot here for Omnipotent here at 15-1. It's my lone B. I'm 1 and 10 as A's. Omnipotent here, my lone B. Matt, where did you land?
Pretty different than you, which is, I guess, a bit surprising. Although I will say, right, like as I mentioned, I suck at capping Del Mar, so but just a theme for the series. Don't think I'm gonna, be as good as I was, having Hong Kong, right? Like I'm a one trick pony, pun intended. Look, I did think I saw it a little bit similar to you, where I have a lot of questions in this field on a couple things, right? I don't know who wants a mile, right? This looks like a field where there's just not a lot of milers in here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you have a lot of horses kind of either stepping up in distance, coming back in distance, etc. And so I don't know. The other big thing is there's a lot of horses that looks like they just can't run off Lasix. Most of these
Mm.
horses are coming off, right? Or at least, kind of don't have wins that are off Lasix. And so a horse like Nadet, I think, is, one of those that actually at least has a win on Lasix. But I think I'd probably want to go a different way just based on the pace scenario, right? Like you have a deep closer, and like you said, there's not a lot of pace signed on in here. So that's what turned me off there. Look, my top pick in here is going to be the horse that looks like it really wants the mile. And like you said before, and I agree with you, I always treat Santa Anita on the downhill, like those 6.5 downhills, really as favoring horses that can run a full mile. And so my eyes went to 12 Lunar Impact, right? And not to just, immediately out of the gate simp Hector Barrios on turf and Del Mar, but, he had one of the most amazing rides I've seen on, Del Mar turf today. And I think he's been doing that in California for a long time. So, I know we come from a group of Hector Barrios truthers here, and we're like number one fan club. But again, I think a lot of things stand out, right? I think, Dan Blacker's pretty good coming off these, medium-sized 60-day layoffs. It's like positive ROI expectation for him. He's good, kind of going, not increasing in distance because I do think it's kind of set, but right, like these are strong races. They're, again, the horse has been running really well off Lasix, and so I do think, and I think a horse like the Siren Zostar is actually done really well in a mile. He's upwards of like 25% in a mile for an ROI of like 274. So like, again, click into Formulator, fool around with some of this stuff. I do like those angles when it comes to capping these things, just because again, if I'm not as familiar with California and like the horses itself, stuff like that is, stands out. So that being a really positive kind of expectation to me, I'm like, okay, this is where I'd want to go. So I think most of my money will be through the 12. I don't love the post, but on ability alone, I think this horse is improving. He kind of has, the best setup from my angles and the stuff that I'm running. So that's one place I want to go. I think, otherwise, look, Maduro might be the best horse in this race. I just don't love him off the layoff, right? I think there's too many questions for the price you might get. This horse might go off favored. Yeah, he's run well at a mile. You know, Peter Yurton's not good off the layoff, it looks like, right? Like he's got a pretty poor ROI having these horses come off the bench, and this horse has been on the bench for what, 7.5 months now. So yeah, I just don't see the value there. I will, however, try, I think, Queen Maxima as a B. Uh, look, if you squint really hard, and like I said, if you look at those 6.5 downhill races, the 6.5 downhills, the last two have both been wins. And I mean, Monrovia was it's a graded race. How good that field was, I don't know. Um, but you look at it, and then you said, "Hey, this horse hasn't run well in a mile." Otherwise, he did have Raylu up at that point. So, if you're going to have an excuse, it's kind of an excuse for that horse to me. So, I don't know, right? Like, to me, this horse is coming in. I know this is a restricted stake. I know he meets or she meets the, criteria for it. Maybe they're just saying, hey, we get this spot and we get something else. But wouldn't there be another turf sprint here? I don't know. I guess is Del Mar weird enough where like they're only running 5 or 8? Like, what are the other options to run on turf here? Is there no other race that this horse could have chosen and slotted into where they're saying, hey, we're not competitive at 5 furlongs, so we're gonna run 8 instead? I don't know enough about Del Mar to know that, but this horse has rattled off 5 straight wins. To me, if you're gonna get second choice on a horse that's winning graded races off Lasix, has rattled off 5 straight. I don't know, what's to stop her? So I'll at least use that as a B, but I do think most of the value in here to me is going to be through the 12 and Lunar Impact. And I'll try and stay pretty skinny through this, even though I don't really love a whole lot in this field.
Cool. Let's move on here to race 10. We got a 6.5 furlong dirt allowance race here. I'll let you go first here, Matt. Where did you land?
Yeah, I thought this was another tricky one. I do, I kind of think that there is a fair bit of speed signed on in here. And so I do think I kind of saw it the same way that the early pace scenario and Timeform saw it, where I think horses like Jerry Spirit have to go. I think Tapalo or Tapalo off the layoff has to go. And I do think potentially Mucho de Oro goes, although I'm not sure because obviously the horse is not run on dirt in a long time. And so I do think it sets up for kind of that stalking trip, right? I mean, it is still Del Mar dirt. I don't think you want a deep closer. I don't think you want someone on the lead in here. And that kind of leaves one horse to me, right? That leaves, if you look at that pace scenario, it leaves the two and For All Mankind, right? I mean, I think this horse is just going to sit the prettiest trip and kind of work out the best of it here, right? I like it cutting back. I like him getting Lasix. I do think one up for John Sadler is also a pretty good angle here, right? Like you forgive the last one because it was run on a wet course going, 2 turns to Santa Anita. Clearly what this horse doesn't want to do. So, I think all signs kind of point to, okay, he's going to set the trip. He's probably a class above this field and is probably the one that I'd want to go with. A bunch of other horses in here I think are coming out of like low sal daytime, which just I don't know. I can never trust those figs or trust kind of what's coming out of there. It's just such a different course. Um, the only other horse that I'll probably use as a B, I think, is the one in Mucho del Oro, and I do think just because of the price you're getting on him right now, um, you know, the horse has some dirt pad on the dam side, and this horse actually, I scrolled all the way back in 2021. Horse actually broke his maiden on dirt, right? I mean, first two races of the career were on dirt. Granted, broke it in like a cheap maiden claimer, but they haven't run on dirt since. So you're going all the way back in the archives for this one, but maybe, right? I do think there's enough there to at least say, hey, they're trying something different for a reason, right? There has to be some reason that all of a sudden, you don't just run this many turf races in a row and then say, yeah, let's just do something else, right? Maybe the horse wants dirt. I don't know, right? I mean, there is enough different. I don't think Doug O'Neill is just going to throw shit at a wall for no reason. Maybe. And I think 6-1, if you get that as the right price on this horse, to at least toss in as a B. So again, I do think the setup is for the 2 mostly, but I will use the 1 just in case because it does have that inside drawn speed, and I do think that's an advantage going, 6.5 at Del Mar. It looks like so.
Yeah, top pick is the 2 For All Mankind. Um, yeah, just looking at the pace scenario, I think he's going to sit just off and kind of trip out here on what could be a fast pace. I think if the pace doesn't materialize, depending on what the 1 does, my other A is actually the 7, Tapalo. Um, and this is just a horse that I think if you kind of cross a line through the 2-turn races, just a different horse, right? Because Charlestown going 7 furlongs is a 2-turn race. So cross the line through that. Although the figure came back good, cross the line through that. Obviously, Los Al going a mile 8, cross the line through that. You got to win at Santa Anita going 7 furlongs, great. Cross the line through the Santa Anita Derby. Cross the line through the synthetic states at Golden Gate. Broke its maiden going 7 furlongs at Santa Anita. Um, and heck, even the Del Mar maiden race, well, that actually it's a mile, it's 2 turns. But I just think that the 7 is just an absolute 1-turn horse, and they just haven't been running him in 1-turn races. So I do think him getting back to a 1-turn race here is actually really, really good for him. So I had to include the 7 here, but the 2 is my top pick, basically for all the reasons that you mentioned, right? If the 1, 3, and 7 all go, I mean, this is just going to be a dream trip, I think, for the 2 right on the rail sitting behind the pace. Um, and outside of the 7, he's got the figures that back it up. Going back to that Palos Verde, where he was able to, he finished second, was kind of even there to roll on Big Joe, but got a 118 time form fig for his efforts there. And yeah, I think, getting a little bit of a freshening here, 85, basically 3 months off. And, you know, we haven't really talked about jockeys all that much, but JJ Hernandez is the real deal out west. Like he does it all. He's the best guy going out there. He's trying, I think, to get, I don't know if it's his third or fourth, try to get his third or fourth riding title out there. Like, I mean, he's the real deal. And you know, yeah, I see him get aboard here. And as much as I like Hector Barrios and Frezu, I think they're both really really great. I mean, JJ's just. I mean, he's just the best guy out here right now, especially with like Pratt gone. Rispoli, Rispoli will be going kind of back and forth. He's here. He's on the 5. We're in trouble. Who's another turf horse in here, but yeah, I just think that JJ getting aboard here is a good sign, and yeah, I think he's just going to trip out. But I see a world where the 7 getting back to 1 turn just turns on the jets and doesn't look back. So I'm going to use the 7 as well, but the 2 is my top pick here. So I got the 2 and the 7 here. Race 11. We're going to end this with a turf claiming race going a mile and 16th on the turf And this is a very, very, um, very, very flat race. I think your one of my favorites, Margot's Boy at 3-1. And look, Mark Glatt off a long layoff with Abel Cedillo aboard on the turf as your favorite. Um, Thanks, but no thanks. I'll have I'll let this one beat me. And if Mark Boy beats me, Margot's Boy beats me, right? Projected to probably be the speed in this race. But what's interesting, right? And I do think that this is something that I know I always have to think about this because this happens to me all the time, right? Where I look at the pace projector and I'm like, all right, this is going to be a normal pace, right? I think this race you got to do a little bit more digging. Um, the one Kerrygold is coming out of sprint races and has been on the near the front going a mile, right? They got this horse all the way back. I think this horse is probably going to be a little bit more forward than as far back as that. The two, Calm Sea, led last time. They got the two not really on the lead. The three, Neon Lights, that's a lot of ones. And they got the three just off, right? The four Mega Yacht off the pace. The five Margot's Boy definitely has some speed. Um, so the eight Hudson Ridge, another horse that's shown speed. So I don't necessarily think that this thing's gonna melt. I just think that there's gonna be an honest pace here, right? And like when you kind of look at the pace projector, it kind of almost makes it seem like this five might just get loose. I don't think he's gonna have it that easy. And I think if he is this loose, then this will be a red pace. This is going to be a fast pace if the five is out on his own, in my opinion, right? That's how, at least when I'm looking, kind of digging through the PPs, that's how I'm kind of seeing it. So I'm looking for some kind of like mid pack, off the pace type horses. I think the 10 Fantastic, probably my top pick here. This is another horse that I talked about this earlier. Last time closed in on kind of a slow pace. And I'm pretty sure Beef Winslow, shout out KP, shout out Keep Pounding. Beef Winslow, just was sitting just off that pace and hit the button and went. And the meme horse did it. He's turned into a real horse.
Beef Winslow's a legit horse.
Who would have thought? But I see, like I said, I see JJ Hernandez getting the board again. Peter Urton, him and JJ are hitting at 20% here, and JJ is only 26% on the year. Like I said, if you don't watch West Coast racing, like he's the goods. I just think that Fantastic is probably the trip horse in here. Is probably the horse that's going to have the easiest time and probably have to expend the least amount of energy, I think, to win this race. My other A in this race, my stuff will come back, is the 9 Hurricane Cloud. So, a couple things. One, Richard Baltas on the turf is just, he's just different, right? He's a 14% trainer, but he's got to be way, way ahead of that on the turf. He gets his turf horses to run. Tiago Pereira is an interesting jockey. I think he's a little underrated. I would put him up with. I would put him just under the Barrios and like Rispoli and Frezu. But like once I get past, and obviously JJ is the top. But once I get past that, I don't know, man. I'm kind of thinking maybe Tiago. He might be the next guy up, and he doesn't get bet like it. I like it's incredible the amount of times that you just get a price on one of his horses, and he just ends up blowing up the tote board and blowing you out of a pick five. And this horse, Hurricane Cloud, is just another horse that is something I've talked about, something I look at. Last race, blue fractions, was able to close in on those blue fractions. And, I think that if you kind of look back, he really hasn't had a ton of pace to run into. And I think he's just screaming for a little bit of pace to run into. And I think he's going to get a little bit more pace in this race. So I like him coming off a win here. I think that he's kind of been steadily improving here, and if he can kind of run back to that allowance race last year, I think he's in here with a really big shot. So yeah, I'm gonna be on the 9 Hurricane Cloud and the 10 Fantastic. Matt, where did you land?
Yeah, a bit different, but I agree with you that this is a really flat race. I do think you're kind of looking for some pretty small edges, and I don't think anyone here, short of maybe a couple, would surprise me all that much. I think because of that, I probably went on the I'm just gonna cap this kind of off the form angle, right? And I do think the one angle I wanted to go to was the fact that Peter Miller won 2 races today, and the way Peter Miller's been running, that might be his. He might as well win a billion races today, right? Like he has been running horrific, and if Peter Miller is back on the 6th Spagliato, right? Like I kind of want to put this horse and just say, hey, look, maybe this horse has been running awful because every Peter Miller horse has been running awful. And if he's going to start running good, he's going to run good off of something that you don't see here on this page. And if he can run what's not on the page, that's going to pay buckets. And I want to be on that before the public's on that, or at least somebody catches on, right? Maybe that's not a good angle. Maybe Peter Miller just got lucky today because, a, broken clock is right twice a year. And so those were his 2 times. But like, I'm willing to take the chance at the price, right? Do I love Vincent Shenandoah? No. He's the American at Zenny to me. Like that, you can't,
Yeah,
like, I hate
he
it.
won.
I
He
do
won a
hate
nice race
it.
today. I don't know if you saw that. Like,
I did. Yeah. No,
yeah,
I absolutely did. But again, like I've posted the phrase every time he wins, I go, Vinny wins, I lose. Right. Like I'm never on Vinny. It's just like the jockey that I dislike the most. But I think I'm willing to forego that in this case, just because, again, I do think in a flat race, like try and go with the connections that may be showing something that you're not seeing on paper, right? If everyone's going to cap this race on paper and this race on paper confuses the hell out of me, try an angle that's not there, right? And the value I think will be on that horse. I mean, oh, by the way, this horse is 1 for 1 at Del Mar, so okay, maybe he loves Del Mar, right? I mean, there's other things there potentially, but in an incredibly flat race, okay, yeah, for whatever reason, this connections might improve it the most. So that's the only reason I will go with Spagliato as my A in here. Just say, hey, I'm willing to take that chance, and if he misses, so be it. Like maybe I clean up with one of the Bs, but yeah, I think that's where I'd want to go. And then beyond that, I think I just look for horses that probably, weren't getting great trips. Like I try to track stuff like, ground loss and things like that and how, horses have been wide. And there's some problems with doing that because sometimes it's just horses that don't want to be inside, don't, can't run good trips, right? They always are going to be wide like that. And okay, they're going to be wide again. Just a couple horses that I think probably watching replays in here didn't work out the best of trips last out. You mentioned Mike Smith before, where he's not riding unless he thinks a horse is live. At this point, he doesn't have to get out of bed, and I don't think he's coming to ride a whatever class this is, right? A mid to low level claimer. But I do like the 4 Mega Yacht because I do think if you watch that race does not go on the highlight reel of Mike Smith rides by any means, right? He was in a 7 horse field. He was 2 and 3 wide throughout and moved out to 4 wide to try and close and, made up ground in the stretch. But when you're giving up, I think I try and track this stuff. And I think he gave up like 25 to 30 feet, right? And you lose by half a length. Hey, you save any inch of ground there and you probably win that field against that field. And I do think that field is comparable to this race as well. So, I think he's got to be there. And I think the fact that Mike Smith stays aboard is at least encouraging enough to say, okay, maybe, right? He has a little bit of a chance. Otherwise, as B's, right, I do think similar circumstances on the 11. I think Kyle Frey last out on Promisio. Um, just again, a horse that was wide throughout, right? Kind of had the bad wide draw, stayed wide throughout, just didn't have a chance to make up any ground into a slow pace. That race ended up getting wired on a very forward turf course. Again, I have no idea how Del Mar is going to be playing. I know the last race today got wired, but maybe, right? If a horse is going to be able to make up ground, I do think this is one that you could give another look to. And then same with the 12 Sydney Street, right? I mean, I do just think some of those back races are probably a class above here. And again, I don't love the draw, but I do think just given kind of some of the things you've seen and some of the improvement, and as well as Hector getting up, the fact that this horse has a couple wins at Del Mar are probably reasons to use. So if I can stay skinny through the first two legs, I'd probably go a little bit wider here. I think most of my money would be through Spagliato in the 6, and then use the 4, 11, and 12 as Bs. Again, probably leaning harder on the A's in the first two, and then in this one, I think is the spread race for me. I'm trying to get here. So.
All right. Anything else on this weekend? I know we probably we'll workshop a little bit as we go through. I think we're gonna do the best bet going forward a little bit later. But anything else on this card? You take a look at anything else or anything else on this weekend?
My anniversary is tomorrow, so I will not be betting the Haskell.
There you go.
Just full disclosure. So, and we were supposed to be away this weekend. Actually, my, as usually happens, my kids managed to get sick and start vomiting right as we planned a trip. So, this was anniversary Saturday. My wife's 40th is coming up this week as well. So, yeah, happy birthday to her. But unfortunately, we are here. I'm doing this. So, yeah, it might be a late betting weekend for me. I hope so. But we'll play this. We'll get out in a different way. So.
And that's going to do it for us on The Get Out, aka You've Got to Be Shot to Enemy. Check us out at onthewronglead.com, at wrong_lead on Twitter. Whoa. I am at Cherry Drank. Matt is at Slow and Steady. He will not have his full card picks for Del Mar
absolutely not.
Posted. You'll have to wait till Hong Kong comes back for that. But if you guys got any questions, comments, obviously send them to us on Twitter. Like, subscribe, hit all the buttons. Break the chat bot over at chat.drf.com. Put it through its paces. Let's make some money, guys. Have a good weekend.
Shout out Capper Track.